Man, we are talking about, oh God, patience with the process. So for the first 15 years, I am not kidding you. This will not be your experience, I promise you. For the first 15 years of practicing this practice, one of my affirmations was, God, give me patience and give it to me now. Eventually that affirmation worked. Not necessarily our favorite word. We like instant manifestations, instant gratification, instant everything, right? Just give me a pill for it and I'll feel better immediately. That's all I want, right? Or just tell me what to do so it'll fix it, so tomorrow it will be all different. I have a lovely morning coffee ritual. I love my morning coffee. So I used to have a drip coffee maker, then I had a French press, and now I have the old-fashioned drip coffee maker that is identical to the one my mother had in the 50s, which I love, and it's beautiful, and sits on the counter, and it's all got these gorgeous curves in it, and I just love it. And it's a beautiful drip coffee maker. And usually, well, what I notice, right? We all notice this. If I stand there and wait for the coffee to drip, it takes a really long time. But if I use that opportunity to take the dishes out of the dishwasher, or I go out and look at the birds, or I water the plants, when I come back, it's like, wow, it's already dripped through. The other day, I was standing there, and I was 3/4 asleep, and I was like, I really need my coffee now. So I have a water pot where I boil the water, not quite, because you don't want to pour boiling water over your drip coffee. So I can hear it. I can hear it as it's starting to get hot, and then you do this little thing. You gotta wet the paper first. Then you put the coffee in, and then you make the coffee bloom, which means you put a little bit of water in it again and gets all those little bubbles in it, which takes care of all the acid and all the things that make coffee bitter, and you make it bloom. You wait first, and then you pour your first drip, and then you pour your second drip. And then I did all that, and then I poured my cup of coffee, and I took a sip, and my coffee was barely hot. Because, right? Exactly. Because I forgot to let the water boil. I was so impatient for my coffee. How many things are we that impatient for? First, the water has to boil. Then you have to actually let it drip through. And you have to let it drip through twice. All of this takes some time. And if you're standing there, okay, I'll own it. If I'm standing there waiting for it to happen, it takes 10 minutes. And if I walk away and do something else, it takes 4. It's like magic, right? It's like a weird Einstein magic. This is true everywhere in our lives, right? Absolutely everywhere, all the time, that we get impatient, that actually makes things worse and makes it take longer. So tell me, those of you online, put this in the chat. Tell me the things that make you the most impatient. Traffic. Waiting in line. Computers. Being on hold. People paying their invoices. Come on, give me that money now. Reading directions. Trying to figure out what we're supposed to be doing. Releasing weight. Good. What else? Children. Oh, there are so many things we are impatient about, right? So I have many of those things on my list. You said computer. The one thing I put was web page loading. Yeah. Anything longer than 3 seconds is clearly a reason to become impatient. So Many of them are waiting for the next thing, right? Waiting in line, being in traffic, waiting for right? There's a lot about waiting for the next thing. And then I can be impatient when I'm taking a course and I want it to get to the end, or I'm healing, or I'm recovering, or I'm losing weight, or I'm building an exercise program, right? Things that take time, and we're thinking in our own minds, like we used to do in the car, are we there yet? Right? And so we're focused on our destination. We're so focused on our destination that we're not engaged in the process in a way that actually allows us to be joy-filled and patient. We're missing the moment, and we're pushing and pushing and pushing. So what kinds of times and things do you really notice that your patience is present for you? This is not a rhetorical question. Put this in your chat. When do you notice that you can be patient? When you're with friends? Gardening. Being still, hiking. When you're patient. Good. Playing a board game. With children. And I heard something about passion, doing something that you're passionate about, right? Good. Being intentional. So yes, growing something, enjoying something, savoring something, being present to something, right? When we have decided to be relaxed. I'm not saying when we are relaxed, but when we have decided to be relaxed. Do you see those are two different things? So I will tell you that my greatest teaching in this has been, over the course of my time as a spiritual leader, has been in hospitals and in airports. Because if you sit in a hospital with someone and are impatient, it is not a very good experience. Especially if they're in the emergency room and they keep you out in the waiting room. And you don't hear back. And you're not allowed to go back. Not yet, anyway. My minister card gets me in a lot of places. But they have to, do their thing first before they let you go back in the emergency room. And I have sat for 6 and 8 hours. So what am I going to do? Be anxious? How does that help? How am I in my spiritual practice for that person if I am anxious and impatient? Do you see? So when I go sit in the hospital room, or I know someone is in the hospital and I'm doing treatment during that day, I have learned to choose to be relaxed. So I go into what I consider my waiting mode. And my waiting mode, other than that impatient waiting, is I'm simply present in the moment. How many of you have learned how to do this in an airport? I will not ask you how many have not yet learned how to do this in an airport, especially when there are delays and it's stacking up and you don't know when you're going to get out. I mean, sure, you can be the one standing up there pounding on the counter, yelling at that poor person over there who has no control over the weather in Chicago or wherever it is. Or we can go into relaxed, patient mode. And if we can do it in those situations, the truth is we can do it anywhere, at any time, for any reason. We just have to decide to do it. This is why they grow radishes in kindergarten. Because it's just long enough to create anticipation, but something actually happens. And as children, we learn being patient is worth it. Because all of a sudden, something happens. Radishes grow. So, what are the ways in which we can decide to be relaxed? Because that's essentially what impatience does, right? It's basically the opposite of being relaxed. All of our stress responses are present, and they're running us. And so to cure impatience, are you ready? I'm going to give you the keys to curing impatience. Here we go. Speaking completely not from personal experience, of course. Be present in the moment to what is going on. Just be present. Oh, and none of this is going to be new. There's not one thing I'm going to say today that is new that you haven't heard. Be present to what is going on. The first thing that will cure impatience is just be present to it. Be present to and what happens when we're present to what's going on, that brings us in the here and now. And do you know what we access when we're in the here and now? Say it. Spirit. I heard it. Because the one infinite reality is always only in the here and now. There's no past. There's no future. So the moment we move into the present, we access the infinite. We access all of the potential and possibility. We plug right in to that infinite resource, being present, because it's the only place we can find it. Of course, always. Breathe, right? 1, 2, 3 breaths. And the more you do that, the more you will have a Pavlovian response in your body that says, oh, this means we're relaxing. Do you see? You can train your system to understand that when you take a long, slow, deep breath, and you do that 2 or 3 times, that you are intending to relax. Your body will become entrained to your breath. And all you have to do is remember to breathe, and your body will automatically relax, especially if you open your rib cage, right, and you access the parasympathetic nervous system. Just be intentional about your breathing. And it only takes 3 breaths, that's it. Look for the good. Focus on the positive. Wow, I'm really patient right now, but look at how far I've come. Or look at what the time I'll have tomorrow. Or look at how much this is helping me. Or look at just what I'm going to get to do when I get there. Or do you see? Look for the good. Feel the magic of what's unfolding. Sense how this is part of something that is moving forward, right? And so in psychology, this is called reframing, how you are thinking about what's going on. And when we do that, because we're in the here and now, because we've breathed and we do that, we instantly access our spiritual vision. And we see with Spirit's eyes, not with our own human stressed eyes and our, oh my God, eyes and our, oh, will this ever be done? We'll see it with Spirit's eyes, right? What does Spirit say? Oh, it's all unfolding perfectly. It's all unfolding as it should. And so finally, that leads us to trust. We have to learn to trust the process. Worry and anxiety do not make it better. Right? Worry and anxiety come from a belief that we have a lack of control, a fear of the outcome. I used to believe that my worry and anxiety was I learned to say it's the tax I'm paying for it to go well. If I didn't worry about it enough, how would anybody know that A, I cared, and B, that it was going to work out? So I better just keep worrying about it and be anxious about it and be doing it and be doing it.
I remember those days.
Yeah, right? And I was afraid that if I didn't worry about it, I was going to jinx it. What I didn't realize is all that worry and anxiety was doing the jinxing for me. Right? Learning to trust the process. And I had to understand that if I'm trusting, which means I'm a little bit detached from it, I'm not all emotionally invested in it, that does not mean I do not care. Because I'll tell you, that was thrown in my face. What do you mean, you don't care? Yes, I care. But I choose not to worry about it. I choose not to be anxious about it. And I have to do all those things. Be present, breathe, focus on the positive to remind myself to move into trust. Now, remember that we're not trusting another person. We're not necessarily trusting the plane's going to be on time, or that the person who's going to do the work is going to do it well. We're not trusting anything in the human experience. Our trust is in the process, and that process is the spiritual unfolding of the creative process. That's trusting in the universal laws and principles. right? And so we have to begin to have accessible in our like little file cabinet right here, what are the principles that we most need to reach for in those times when we are feeling impatient, worried, anxious, and stressed out. So I can share with you the spiritual principles that I have learned to activate in my own life when I feel that impatience, especially about my computer, when it doesn't work right, and I have to stop and breathe, right? Activating spiritual principles. These are the ones that work for me. They may work for you. There may be another spiritual principle that you need to have it right here, top of mind, in your spiritual filing cabinet that you can pull out to remind yourself what you are trusting in. Okay, for me, the number one most fabulous one is principle is not bound by precedent. Right? It doesn't matter how many times it hasn't worked before. It doesn't matter how many times I've screwed it up before. It doesn't matter how many times somebody else has screwed it up before. It doesn't matter. Principle is not bound by precedent. And I can be patient with the unfolding process that it will work out. The second thing is omnipresence. If the infinite reality and the universal laws are present, they are present right here in this situation too. I'm not the great exception. This situation is not the great exception. I don't have to figure it out and make it happen because omnipresence is that's what it means. The one is everywhere all the time, here and now, which means in this situation right now. And I can trust that. The other thing I can trust is that omnipresence is intelligent. And I will tell you, this is how I talk to myself. It runs the universe, for God's sakes. Do you not think it can get you from here to there? Really? This thing, whatever I'm impatient about, even if it's a lifetime of spiritual growth, this thing is a nanosecond in the universe. This intelligence, it is running the entire infinity of the universe. Surely I can trust that intelligence is omnipresent, is present in this thing too. In this thing that I am wanting to hurry along a little bit. And finally, the first and the last one come directly out of Thomas Troward. If you've not taken a class on Thomas Troward, take a class on Thomas Troward. If you don't want to take a class, read in the Edinburgh Lectures. The class will help. The book's a little convoluted. The class will really help, but oh my God, it is so good. The material is so amazing. So this idea that principle is not bound by precedent, he also really talks about the law of growth, which Science of Mind picks up. There are things we can instantly manifest. Yes, we can instantly manifest a cure. We can instantly manifest some money. We can instantly manifest things. Most things in the space-time continuum, if we have planted a seed, most things have to grow. Growing does not mean it's not manifesting. It means it's growing. And we can trust it. The law of growth. We don't have to push it. You don't have to stand over the seed and tell it what to do. You don't have to worry about whether it's growing roots. You don't have to tell it how many leaves it should put out on a particular side. We cultivate it, right? You've been doing the Step Out in Faith. We've been cultivating it, nourishing it, talking about planting seeds, doing that. Now we have to have patience and allow them to begin to grow and to begin to flourish. And if we trust nothing else, we can trust the law of growth. If we don't get in the way, it will grow. Actually, quite frankly, even if you get in the way, how many trees and plants have you seen that have grown up around a rock? Hello? The water goes around the rock, keeps going, keeps flowing. Right? We can trust. These are the things we're trusting. And I like the word trust. I don't want to have faith in something that decides for me that principle is not bound by precedent, or whether or not in this particular case the intelligence is going to show up. I like to recognize that I am trusting in universal principles that are available to all of us. The most important universal principle that I would recommend that we work with trusting is that the law, while it is impersonal and automatic, does in fact have a trajectory. And that trajectory is for good. Life is always working to express itself. Life is always working to grow. It's always working to take whatever has happened, the tornado or the volcano or the whatever, the loss of a loved one, the change in job, the uncertainty about what to do. The law of life is forever seeking to move forward into greater expression. This is the most fundamental thing we can trust, is that the law is on our side, not because God favors us, but because all life is favored by life. And if we can relax into that and start trusting that, we stop pushing and we stop stressing and we become more patient. Thomas Troward calls it cheerful expectancy. Cheerful expectancy. Sometimes I think we have this thing we've learned in therapy, because I'm sure all of us have had plenty of time in therapy. We've learned not to have an expectation about other people, right? Because they are going to be who they are, and it's not right to have our expectations on them, yada 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 yada. But what we do is we forget is that we take that idea and now we blanketly apply it to everything in our lives, and so we stop expecting our good. And we stop expecting that our spiritual mind treatments will demonstrate. And we stop cheerfully expecting that that which is growing will in fact grow. We want to look at our lives the same way we look at beautiful flowers or a beautiful tree or something that we've planted in our garden, or even if we're not gardeners, to look at the children around us. And even our own childhood, we expected to grow. And that growth was a good thing. Cheerful expectancy makes our lives hopeful. Impatience contracts it, shuts it down, and we can forget that there is an infinite resource on our side. So, how do we do all of this? Well, practice. Really, there's no other answer. There's no magic pill. There's no magic bullet. I wish I could give it to you, right? We go to classes. We be part of community. Over and over and over, we practice. And then we start practicing in the middle of the moment. Now, for me, while I love many spiritual tools, my favorite spiritual tool is spiritual mind treatment. If I want to co-create or manifest something, I will tell you that my favorite spiritual tool in the moment is an affirmation. Now, mostly I see people use affirmations. They write a big, long paragraph, and then they put it on their mirror. And then they look at it for a few days, and they never look at it again, right? Because it's too long. So those kinds of things really ultimately are contemplations. They're not affirmations. They're things that you contemplate as you're reading it, right? So you take those things into your morning devotion, your morning spiritual practice, or you read them over lunch, and you read them, and you read them. And what you're doing there is cultivating the soil. You're cultivating the consciousness, you're fertilizing the plants that have already grown, things like that. No, what we need is something immediate. We need something immediate in the moment when impatience is starting to swirl, anxiety and stress are starting to become engaged, and we are not being patient with the process. At least for me, I need a magic bullet. The universal law is always working in your favor. See, isn't that that's a beautiful slide. I want you to see it. Can't miss all these slides. We take all this time to make them. Okay, so these are my favorite affirmations that I have used over the years that have shifted this thing for me in such a profound way. Not that I don't get impatient, But I have tools now. I have tools that can easily move me into a new place. Now, these are my favorite affirmations. You have to make yours. You're welcome to borrow any of these, but only if it resonates. Play with it until you find those that resonate for you. My favorite affirmations. First one, be here now. Oh, I can't wait till this is over. God, can't the plane come? Oh, could we just get this? Be here now. Be here now. I haven't heard from the doctor. Why do I not know? Be here now. Be here now. Be here now. Do you see? Boom, right? Reminding myself, don't be there in the future. Don't be out there. Be here now. Another one of my favorite ones, don't miss it. There's something important happening right here in front of us. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. Don't miss the journey. I told myself this while my son is growing up. I tell myself this now with Aria. When I get impatient with her, or I want to have something else to do, or I get impatient with just even taking a day off because I have a laundry list of things that need to be done. Don't miss it. Don't miss your life. Don't miss it. I have used this affirmation for years. Don't miss it. Enjoy this moment. Savor the plateaus along the way. There will be plateaus along the way. Work really hard, work really hard. Wow, but I'm not there yet. Okay, but wow. But I'm not there yet. Okay, but wow. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the view from the moment. Right? Sometimes we only celebrate our accomplishments in the rearview mirror, and we miss them along the way. This one is about enjoying the accomplishments that are happening along the way as this garden, this vibrant life that we're working on, focusing on creating, is actually growing and unfolding. Enjoy the sprout, enjoy the new leaves, enjoy the bud, enjoy the flower, enjoy that it's dying so a new flower can emerge. Enjoy the moment. I was so mad with the executive coach who taught me this affirmation. Trust the process. No, I don't trust it. What? What do you mean the process? No, I want to manifest it. I want to manifest it now, and all these people, they need to do what they're supposed to be doing. Trust the process, Petra. Trust the process. Ooh, man. That was a hard one to work with. But I would remind myself, I'm trusting the process. Trust the process. I don't know how it's going to work out. Trust the process. I don't know if I've done it. Trust the process. I don't know. Trust. Do you see? That's what an affirmation is. It's the cut off. Cut off the old way of thinking. Cut it off and plant a new one. Remind ourselves. Cut it off and say, no, I'm trusting the process. Or just trust the process. It's a reminder. No, I really actually want to do this instead of what I was just doing. Yeah. She also said, trust the process, it's organically unfolding. And the first time she said that to me, I was like, what? What are you talking about? What's the plan? What are the steps? Have you figured out how this is going to work yet? Trust the process, Petra, it's organically unfolding. Stop saying that. Oh my gosh, this was some pretty diligent and slightly painful work. You mean I don't have to figure it all out? You mean I don't have to worry about every step? It's organically unfolding. Each step will become available if you will trust the process. These two last have become my most favorite affirmations. I lived with these affirmations during the pandemic with CSLDallas. I lived with these affirmations this last year as we were regrowing, rebuilding, coming back together again. Trust the process. It's organically unfolding. And do you see the moment we say that, I can, and what am I trusting? Okay, let's go back. I'm trusting this. This is what I'm trusting. Do you see this? This is what I'm trusting. This is what I'm trusting. This is what we're trusting. Trust the process. So if these affirmations work for you, great. If they don't, great. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Find ones that you can reach for. And finally, As it is growing, do not trample on it. I accept my good. Every little leaf, every little bud, every little flower, every little seed, every little acorn, every little thing that is growing because of the seed that you planted in your garden. It's not good enough. It's not, oh, well, you know, this old thing. All those ways in which we trample on our good, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm the queen of waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's not going to last. Don't count on it. It's not going to last. I accept my good. Do you see, these affirmations for me have helped me move through the process from beginning all the way through, depending on where I am in this process of growing myself, my life, something in it, something in my work, I use this in business, I use this in relationships, I use this for my family, I use this for myself. It's applicable every place, everywhere in our lives. So this week, I really invite you to notice, where do you get the most impatient, aren't trusting the process, and what can you reach for? Like right here, top of mind. What principle or affirmation can you use to keep yourself from going down the rabbit hole, right? And to reorient, reframe, resettle into this beautiful garden that is, in fact, growing. Why is it growing? It grows in spite of us. Do you know why? Because the law's on your side. The universe wants you to flourish. The Spirit is showering us with everything we will ever need. It's already, always here. It does have to grow in the space-time continuum. So, this week, practice having patience with the process.